Alrighty, everyone. Matt back here with another video for y'all. Appreciate y'all for watching this. If you guys will, as always, like the video, share it out to one person, and comment if you have any questions or any concerns about anything. We are going to actually have a lot to talk about once again today. Multiple systems in the Pacific Oceans, tropical systems, and hurricanes. Major hurricane, in fact, Hurricane Gilma, now a Category 3 hurricane headed towards the Central Pacific Ocean here. We're going to talk about what impacts both of these systems could have towards Hawaii briefly, and then we're going to talk about the tropics and the Atlantic. There's not much going on now, but down the road there could be. And then also, once again, the big weather pattern change that's going to continue to happen. We are actually potentially now going to see a pretty big severe weather event next week that could or could not bring some severe weather chances, all modes of severe weather possible to the northern plains and maybe Midwest, and maybe parts of the northern Ohio Valley. We'll kind of hint at that just a little bit. But other than that, guys, we'll go ahead and dive into this once again. Make sure you guys comment if you have any questions and like the video. So we'll go ahead and start out here with Tropical Depression 1C. And this is a newly issued area here out of the National Hurricane Center here in the Central Pacific. This is basically going to become a tropical storm. Could float near Category 1 hurricane status here, but this what the big deal about this system is this is going to strengthen over decently relatively warm waters, really more cooler waters once we get closer to Hawaii. We've got water temperatures where it's at right now, right around 75 to 80, and then back over here into the southern end of Hawaii, we've got water temperatures that are actually near the 60s. So the cooler water temperatures will help weaken this storm a little bit, but the problem is going to be is the further north that this goes, the more rainfall will bring here to Hawaii. We can see wind, some storm surge, maybe some onshore tornadoes potentially. Not something you think about Hawaii a lot, but that's always a concern when you have a landfalling tropical system or close to near tropical system. Now, the further south that this goes, the less impacts that we can have. I'm pretty sure we're going to see some rain and some wind more than likely with this. To what magnitude that's going to be, we'll figure out those details down the road as we get into this weekend. And then we've also got what is now Hurricane Gilma, major Hurricane Gilma, sustained winds at 125 miles an hour. Let's actually pull this up here so you guys can see that here. There we go. Once again, Hurricane Gilma here, a Category 3 hurricane expected to intensify into a Cat 4 later on this afternoon, around 130 mile an hour winds. We could see a little bit more intensification maybe outside of the forecast cone. This thing's been back and forth as far as intensity goes. So this is something we're going to watch really, really closely for you guys. But just looking at this storm, very symmetrical, very, very intense wind field here. You can see the outer eyewall actually expanding, more convection on going around the eye wall here, the southern and eastern and northern eye wall. So this is concerning for that intensification process. But the good news is, as this continues to work its way west, it's going to start to tap into some cooler water temperatures. It'll start to weaken, and then we'll probably be just talking about a tropical storm by the end of this week. So there's that there. So just kind of a fish storm to look at as far as, you know, the ocean goes. We also got another area of development behind this one as well, where we could see another tropical system development, maybe even a hurricane down the road. And this is another one we'll kind of watch work its way west. So we'll talk about Hawaii impacts over the next couple of days when we start to get more details on that, if that does in fact become a concern, and then potentially more disturbances behind this that could bring a factor to, again, the West Pacific. So not as active in the Atlantic Ocean. In fact, not active in the Atlantic Ocean right now. We have no areas of development, but the National Hurricane Center has put out, and I'll actually show this in tomorrow's video when I find the statistic or the graph for this, but we are going to start to see the Atlantic Ocean ramp up the first week of September. So nothing right now expected between the next 7 to 10 days as of now. But as we go to that first week of September, the 1st through the 10th, we start to see the chances of a tropical system or to develop in some shape or form in this area. And so we're going to have a couple of these little waves that'll be working their way off of the African coastline. We got a lot of Saharan dust. It's also a factor right now that we're going to continue to watch. But any type of development could be key to potentially bringing either U.S. impacts down the road or just in general a storm to watch. So right now, no impacts the United States for anything because we don't have a storm, but that could be something as we get into September. I do want to talk about September being near the peak season for hurricanes, so we can see a lot of storms potentially happen, or we could see a couple. So we'll just kind of have to watch this. Now, the biggest story that we're going to be talking about for today is across the United States is going to be the severe weather forecast. We now have an upgraded level 2 slight risk for severe weather today, and that is going to be here in eastern Colorado, northwestern Kansas, and southwestern Nebraska. That is a level 2 out of 5. This is strictly going to be a wind and hail threat. No tornado threat as expected, but you never can rule out or say there's not going to be an isolated tornado. There typically can be a lot of the times with the different downforcing of winds off the slopes here of the mountains in Colorado. Typically, we get a random tornado warning with these risk zones, so just kind of be mindful of that. But slight risk today and marginal risk here in the Rockies. This is something we're going to watch for wind and hail. Back over here where we're dealing currently with monsoon season, we actually had a tornado warning in Tucson, Arizona yesterday that did not produce a complete ground to cloud or cloud to ground tornado, but it did produce a tornado warning, so be mindful of that. But we've got a marginal risk for severe weather today back here along Interstate 15 up here near Interstate 80 and 84 from Logan, Utah, all the way down here to St. George, and then eventually close to the Las Vegas, Nevada area. So be mindful, wind and hail there. And then the actual map just updated from SPC, so we no longer have a marginal risk up here. This did officially get updated and pulled away. So what are we going to be looking like over the next, couple hours here for today as far as the forecast timing for this goes? We'll actually do today and we'll do tomorrow here, because I've got both risk zones that'll be pulled up. Today's risk zone, like I said, over both of these here, showers and storms firing off this afternoon along Interstate 15, and then showers and storms firing off. These could potentially maybe produce a little bit of a linear event. And like I said, this could produce maybe an isolated tornado, even though the chances are between 0 and 2%. And with the wind threat anywhere from 60 to 70 mile an hour winds along Interstate, south of Interstate 75 or 76 down towards Holyoke, and then Julesburg, Burlington, Goodland, Kansas, Colby, Kansas. Be mindful, Lamar down here in Colorado. So this will be east of the Denver area that we're watching for. But these showers and storms kind of just daytime heating. And then once the sun goes down, these storms do officially kind of work their way east and become just rain and then fizzle out. So that's through today's forecast. Now we also have another risk zone for tomorrow. We've actually got multiple risk zones. And that's where I started the video about saying there's a potential for maybe a severe weather event into next week. Tomorrow we are also looking at a marginal risk for severe weather. This is going to be for your Friday forecast. Salt Lake City and a marginal, southern Wyoming, southwestern and northwestern and western Colorado. And then we've got parts of the Rockies, once again, from northeastern Colorado into Nebraska, South Dakota, and Montana, and Wyoming and North Dakota tomorrow as well. Marginal risk level 1 out of 5. Wind and hail will be the main threat for these. We can see a couple discrete cells making it into parts of the Nebraska and Kansas area here that could produce some wind and hail, but the overall threat for tomorrow, once again, as well, is going to be very, very limited. So we're not going to expect to see any severe organized severe weather, I don't think, until we get closer to Sunday. Saturday's forecast, once again, as well, starting to see another marginal risk, continuing to see that monsoon season back here again on Saturday. A marginal risk for New Mexico, Colorado, and parts of Arizona and Utah. And then another more organized, starting to get more organized threat here. And this will be kind of day one of our first big official storm system to start next week off. And that will be for the last official week of August. We got a marginal risk from North Dakota, Montana, and into down here into the Rockies, once again, into Nebraska and Kansas. So with that being said, as we go into Sunday, this is where things start to get a little bit more interesting. We now have a day 4 and a day 5 outlook, and we've done this in the past with you guys. We've not had a day 4 or beyond outlook in quite some time because we've not had really any organized or confidence levels in severe weather that far out. The further out we get with these risk zones that get issued, the more confidence we have that there's going to basically be severe weather. And so on Sunday, this does not look like a big risk zone right now, but there is a level 2 slight risk out of 5 here for North Dakota and South Dakota and a little bit of western Minnesota along Interstate 29. We are going to watch this very closely for a pretty strong trough ejection with a low pressure system that's going to be up here in Canada or crossing into Canada from Montana and the Dakotas. And this could bring all modes of severe weather. I wouldn't rule out a tornado risk with this. I wouldn't rule out a wind threat or a hail threat with this today. So this is something we're going to have to watch as we get closer to Sunday for you guys. And then after that, we're not done on Sunday. We've got an even bigger risk that develops on Monday for next week, across much of Minnesota, western Wisconsin, eastern South Dakota, and far north extreme Iowa here. So this is something we're going to continue to watch for this. And not going to say this is what's going to happen, but a lot of the times when we get these risk zones that are 4 to 8 days out, typically confidence continues to increase. We can sometimes get an enhanced risk. So with that being said, next week looks to be more of an organized severe weather threat. And this will basically be what's going to be riding our ridge. Now, one other thing I want to show you guys really quickly that I haven't got to talk about a lot because, I honestly kind of forgot, if y'all want me to be honest with you, is going to be, what is that temperature outlook going to be? Let's go to our 8 to 14 day temperature outlook over the next week and a half to 2 weeks. And you can actually see a below average trend in temperatures. And this is going to be due to these low pressure systems that work their way out of Canada and out of the West Pacific here. And these will have some cool air that actually filters in. And there's actually a chance, believe it or not, for some snow showers along the Canada lineup here later on at the end of the weekend with some cooler air that could drop down with these lows. Warming trend is going to continue as well as we go into next week. We could see a pretty decent sized heat wave from the Central Plains all the way up into the Midwest and Ohio Valley. Late next week, we could see temperatures around the 90s, pushing triple digits, and then we could see some back to cooler temperatures behind the system that comes in late next week. So next week looks to be a pretty big week, potentially for some severe weather in some spotty areas. Is something we're going to watch for you guys. I do want to go ahead and show you guys what the jet stream is going to be showing here as far as the next little bit of time, and we'll go ahead and we'll look at the newest GFS run that's coming in here. Now remember, anything that is 10 days above, or 7 to 10 days or out further than that, typically we like to take it with a grain of salt. Now we were talking about the tropics as well. Right now we're not seeing much of any tropical activity. We have our Bermuda high that's going to be sitting out over east of Bermuda here. This is kind of keeping some of that Saharan dust as well, along with some shear that's helping keep storms from going off here off the coastline. But as we get closer into next week and into the first week of September, we start to see a couple of these little waves that kind of break off down here off the coast of Africa. This is something we're going to have to watch potentially for some development down the road. Nothing looks organized right now, nothing big, but once we get into September, this is going to be the big trending forecast potentially as far as seeing if the tropics are going to ramp up. Now, closer back to home here, as far as the jet stream goes, we were talking about a pretty major system later on this weekend, at the end of this week and into next week. Here's that high pressure system right over that ridge. We're going to continue to see a heat dome build, once again, continuing to bring triple-digit temperatures into Texas, Oklahoma over the next couple of days. And then eventually this will work its way east, start to break down, and we'll see those 80s and 90s and possibly some hundreds into parts of the Midwest and Ohio Valley. Now, this is our big storm system that's going to enter the West Pacific actually tomorrow, or actually already tonight into tomorrow. And this is going to bring a jet streak that travels from the West Pacific, California, all the way up into the Rockies, into the Northern Plains. Typically, when you get a southwesterly flow like this, you get a pretty decent sized signal for severe weather. And this is as we go on to Sunday. This would be our forecast. Southwesterly flow off the Rockies here, where this would aid in a tornado potential more than likely. And that's going to favor, like I said, where that slight risk is slivered at. And that's going to be South Dakota and North Dakota. We'll have some wind direction change with height that could potentially produce some severe weather. And then as we go into Monday, we actually get a bigger enhancement of that upper level jet stream and mid-level jet stream. And we could actually probably, I think Monday would be the bigger day along the Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, South Dakota, North Dakota area, where we would see a bigger severe weather risk. So I really want to watch more on Monday. We'll watch both days as far as anything goes, but Monday would be probably a bigger day. And then as we go into Tuesday, wouldn't rule out severe weather again, possibly into Michigan, once again Wisconsin, Iowa, maybe again on Monday. And then you take your eyes to the left side of the screen, where you see this big old trough ejection with a low pressure. This will be later on next week to start out the week here, potentially watching another system. Now, the models, as we talked about in yesterday's video, have actually pushed this low pressure system a little bit further north, and it's helping maybe limit severe weather as we were expecting yesterday potentially. So this is something that we're going to watch, but maybe even a colder blast of air behind this, but maybe some severe weather on the eastern side of this jet streak that eventually does work its way east. So we're going to watch this and see what it does as far as the potential for severe weather goes down the road. Another thing, like I said, we'll talk about in the upcoming videos is going to be what that September forecast could be. And this is just looking at the latest GFS run right now and trying to give you guys an idea on what September could be. If we start out September like this, where a ridge is built over the pretty much whole western United States, then this would limit severe weather. It would keep things cool over here in the Northeast and Midwest and Ohio Valley, and very warm and hot over here to start September out in the West Pacific. So this is just something to be mindful of. This will continue to change over the next couple of weeks and days as we continue to get these model runs in and updates in. This is just a model run. This isn't the definite forecast. So remember that when you guys watch my videos. We'll show what the European does. We might actually do a live stream maybe tonight, depending on how much schoolwork I get done, to kind of explain some more in-depth things to you guys. Make sure for some reason, guys, my notifications are not going out, so make sure if I tell y'all we're going to do a stream at a certain time, just kind of look for that stream around that time. If it doesn't send the live notification, I can't do anything about that other than share it to you guys. So, but other than that, we're going to leave it at that with y'all. I appreciate y'all for watching this. Be safe, be weather aware. If you have any questions, as always, throw them in the comments. I'll try and get back to you guys as quick as possible. And I will see you guys in the next video. Be safe and have a wonderful day, guys.